I drove 6 hours to stand in a park, at midnight, staring at the sky. This is Shoreline Park, Gulf Breeze, Florida. Population about 6,000 people, one Publix, nice sunsets. And on the night of May 1st, 1988, someone stood right here, looked up at that sky, and lost an hour of their life. Car was running, and there was a photograph in their hand they didn't remember taking. Nobody, not the military, not federal investigators, not NASA, has ever explained what happened here. But here's the part that got me. When he first saw it, in 1987, he described it as right out of a Spielberg movie. 39 years later, Spielberg just made that movie. I needed to come see this for myself. It's November 11th, 1987. Ed Walters is a local building contractor, normal guy, nice house, not someone who goes looking for trouble. He's working late in his home office when he notices something through the window, a light. He grabs his Polaroid camera, because in 1987, that was just the camera you had. Walks outside, and photographs a craft hovering about 200 feet above his yard. He described it as a glowing disc, electric blue on the bottom, humming. He takes 5 photos. Then a beam of blue light hits him and he can't move. He described being briefly immobilized, briefly, like the aliens were on a schedule. He submits the photos to the local paper, the Gulf Breeze Sentinel, under the alias Mr. Ed, because yes, he named himself after the talking horse, no comment. The paper runs them, and Gulf Breeze is never the same. Ed Walters doesn't stop at 5 photos. Over the next 6 months, from November 1987 to May 1988, he reports 19 separate encounters. He takes 32 photographs. He shoots videotape. He documents everything. He claims the craft landed on Soundside Drive and deposited 5 beings onto the road. One of them stared through his window. They communicated with him, telepathically, in English and Spanish, and they showed him a book of dog pictures. I have so many questions, and none of them are about the spaceship. But here's where it gets harder to dismiss. After the Sentinel runs the photos, the calls start coming in. A woman wakes up at 2 a.m. to find an orange-lit craft in her yard. A couple on the water watch a disc-shaped object hover over their pier with landing lights shining down. A city councilwoman, not exactly the hysterical type, sees an orange glow moving along the treetops while she's driving across the Pensacola Bay Bridge. Nearly 200 people in Gulf Breeze report seeing something in those 6 months. 200 people! That's not a hysteria, that's a witness list. 200 people reported seeing something over this town. 200, that's not a conspiracy theory, that's a neighborhood meeting. If that's the kind of story you want more of, hit subscribe. I drive to these places every few weeks. Some are weirder than this. Some are harder to explain. None of them are on the travel brochure. The Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, sends investigators. An optical physicist named Bruce Maccabee examines 5 of the original Polaroids. He's not some guy on the internet. He's done work for the government. He looks at the photos and says, on record, I think there's a good chance it's the real thing. He's so invested, he has Walters rig up a double camera system, 2 Polaroids mounted on a beam, so future shots can be triangulated for depth and distance, to make them harder to fake. Ed Walters takes a polygraph. The examiner's conclusion, and I'm quoting directly here, Walters believes his photos are real, which means one of 2 things. Either he's telling the truth, or he is the most committed method actor in the history of Florida. A scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory also examines the images, Robert Nathan. He says he has a feeling that there is some kind of cut and paste on some surface. He mentions double exposure. He doesn't rule it out, he just has a feeling. The mayor of Gulf Breeze personally analyzes the photos and says they're fake, so you've got a NASA scientist saying probably fake, an optical physicist saying probably real, 200 witnesses, a past polygraph, and a city mayor getting personally involved. This is not a slow week in Gulf Breeze. And look, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there's a catch. There is. And it's a good one. Stick with me. In 1990, Ed Walters and his family move out of their house. The new owners are doing some work and they find something in the attic. A model. A styrofoam model of a UFO, carefully constructed, about the right size. The reporter who broke the skeptical side of this story, Craig Myers, from the Pensacola News Journal, takes that model and recreates the photographs. Almost exactly. Same shape, same proportions, same glow effect. Now, here's the thing. Ed Walters says it was planted. Someone broke into his old house after he moved out, climbed into the attic, and left a fake model there specifically to discredit him. After the fact, is that the most paranoid explanation I've ever heard? Sure. Is it also, if you believe 200 witnesses saw something real, the only explanation that makes sense? Maybe. Because think about it. If you were going to fake 32 photographs and 19 encounters over 6 months, why would you keep the model? Why not throw it away? Why hide it in your own attic in a town where everyone knows who you are? There are researchers, serious ones, who believe the model was planted specifically to end the investigation, because the investigation was getting too close to something located about 10 miles east of Gulf Breeze. Real quick, if you've watched this far into a story about a Florida man, a foam plate, and a possible government cover-up, you are exactly the kind of person who hits like on a video. It's free, it takes half a second, and it tells the algorithm that people actually want to know about this stuff. Which apparently we do. Eglin Air Force Base sits directly east of Gulf Breeze. It is, and I'm quoting official records here, a military installation of mind-boggling proportions. Eglin controls over 460,000 acres of land and 100,000 square miles of airspace over the Gulf of Mexico. When investigators asked the base's director of public affairs about the sightings, about 200 witnesses, about the photographs, about the UFO reports flooding in from an entire community, they said there was no record of unusual activity. Nothing on radar, nothing in the air, totally routine. The second largest Air Force base in America, testing experimental aircraft over the Gulf of Mexico, right next door, nothing unusual. Gulf Breeze's own police chief had a theory. He thought people were mistaking secret military test flights for UFOs. That Ed Walters' photos started a domino effect of hysteria that made 200 people think they were seeing aliens. Which raises an interesting question. If it was just secret military aircraft, why not say that? Why let 200 residents think it was extraterrestrial for decades, instead of saying, hey, that was us, sorry for the confusion? Because that's what you do when you're hiding a test program. You let the alien theory take over, because nobody's going to get the clearance to investigate aliens. Or, and hear me out, there was nothing military about it at all. Here's the thing about Gulf Breeze. Nobody ever agreed on what happened, and nobody ever stopped arguing about it. If you know someone who would fight a stranger on the internet over whether Ed Walters is a visionary or a fraud, send them this video. That's genuinely what it's for. And that's exactly why UFO reports around this area have generated so much debate, because when people see something impossible in the sky near Eglin, two very different explanations immediately emerge. The first is simple. Maybe they're seeing technology that hasn't been revealed to the public yet. Experimental aircraft, prototype drones, secret military projects. After all, history has shown us that some aircraft looked completely impossible before the public knew they existed. Imagine spotting a stealth bomber decades before its unveiling. You'd probably call it a UFO too. But then, there's the second explanation. What if some sightings aren't military at all? What if witnesses really are seeing something nobody can explain? And that's where things become fascinating. For decades, residents throughout Northwest Florida have reported strange lights, silent craft, impossible maneuvers, and glowing objects hovering over forests, bays, and coastal waters. Many reports describe objects accelerating instantly, changing direction without slowing down, or moving in ways that seem to ignore conventional aerodynamics. Of course, skeptics point to Eglin, believers point to the flight characteristics, and the argument continues. Then came one of the area's most intriguing incidents. In 1984, reports emerged of a massive UFO sighting witnessed by hundreds of people in the region. According to numerous accounts, as many as 200 witnesses observed a strange object in the sky. People described unusual lights and movements that seemed difficult to explain through ordinary aircraft activity. As word spread, many expected military officials to provide answers. Instead, witnesses say the response was surprisingly dismissive. According to local reports and UFO researchers, Eglin officials essentially indicated there was nothing unusual to investigate. Case closed, or was it? Because that answer only fueled more speculation. If nothing happened, why were so many people reporting the same thing? If it was a military test, why not simply say so? And if it wasn't military, then what exactly were hundreds of people looking at? Questions like those have kept conspiracy theories alive for decades. Some researchers believe Eglin has served as a cover for highly classified aerospace projects. Others suspect that unusual sightings are intentionally mixed in with routine military operations, creating the perfect environment for secrecy. And then there are those who take the mystery even further. They argue that certain reports may involve technology that doesn't belong to any nation on Earth. Now, is there hard proof for that claim? No, at least none that's been released publicly. But mysteries thrive in places where information is scarce, and Eglin Air Force Base has always been surrounded by secrecy. That's what makes the Gulf Breeze story so compelling. Because every time someone reports a strange object over Northwest Florida, we're left with the same unsettling possibilities. Was it a visitor from another world? A classified military aircraft, decades ahead of its time, or something else entirely? And until somebody produces definitive evidence, the skies over Florida's Panhandle may remain one of the most intriguing UFO mystery zones in America. So, I'm standing here, Shoreline Park, the exact spot where Ed Walters stood on May 1, 1988, the last night he ever saw it, and lost an hour, and I'm thinking about what he said the first time he saw it, right out of a Spielberg movie. He said that in 1987. When Spielberg was the guy who made Close Encounters and E.T. movies about government cover-ups, about contact, about the thing we're not supposed to know. And now Spielberg is releasing a film about the government hiding alien contact for decades. In 2026. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Spielberg has spent 40 years telling us the same story, because some stories are true whether you can prove them or not. Was Ed Walters telling the truth? I genuinely don't know. But 200 people in this town saw something. And whatever it was, military, extraterrestrial, or something else entirely, somebody went to a lot of trouble to make sure we'd never find out. What do you think? Was it a hoax? Was the model planted? Drop it in the comments. Because I've been thinking about it for 6 hours on a drive back from the Florida Panhandle, and I still don't have an answer. There's another Florida story that's been waiting. It doesn't involve the sky. It involves what's under the water, structures that weren't supposed to be there, found by people who weren't supposed to say anything. See you there.